Welcome guys, we're going to wrap up this crate today. I'm texturing in Photoshop. Forgive me if I go kind of fast. I've got a lot to talk about and I only have about a couple hours to do it in. That's probably a good thing. Keep me kind of focused here. But I have a couple of programs open. We're going to talk about Unreal and 3ds Max, and we're going to do this texture in Photoshop. We do also have PureRef open. I want to collect some reference on what I want this crate to look like, and so let's start there. Let's go find something like a wooden crate. Yup. Ooh, I like that. This is kind of probably gonna be my main inspiration. I'm gonna see if I can't rip it off of this site. Copy. Jump over to PureRef and just paste. Ooh. While that's doing that thing, I'm gonna go back to Google, and I'm just looking for what's gonna inspire the look of this crate. I'm looking for grunge, I'm looking for colors, I might even be looking for wood grain so we can create a reusable pattern. I kinda like that too. I don't know what that's doing, so oof. It's gonna crash on me. Off to a good start. I'm just gonna launch another instance of PureRef since that one's crashing on me. Yep. There we go. Jump back to that site. I'm going to do this another way. I'm going to go snipping tool. Grab that image. Copy that. Done with snipping tool. Paste. Let's get rid of that other PureRef. Maybe through a there we go. What else do we got? I'll make sure to grab one of these uncolored ones as well. Something for my raw material inspiration. I'm kind of looking for something that's not so dark, something that's kind of evenly lit. This might be a good one for reference for something. Yeah. There's some good color reference in here. Brand new. This one also might be a good color reference. Could go that way, but I'm going to keep it kind of generic. Rustic wooden crate. Yeah, kind of distressed stuff. which could be cool. I'm gonna get, ooh, that's kind of cool too. I like that. I'm gonna bring that in. Just trying to get a range of values here. Change the size of these crates. Crate images to something large. That's about all I need. We can call that done. Let's go ahead and save this. Save as. We're going to go to our folder. I'm just going to make a little bookmark here. Call this our crate reference. Crate ref. Save that in case it crashes. Now that we got some reference, we kind of know what we're going for. We got some grunge in here. We got some distressed, cracked old wood. Got some raw values here for materials, both our metal and our wood. And with that in mind, I'd say we could go ahead and start building our PSD. So let's do that. Or maybe we want to set up inside of Max first, which would be a good idea. So I'm just going to duplicate this world, basically. I'm going to grab a couple of things that I might want to keep around. That would be maybe a good wood starter. Maybe those would be a good wood starter. I think this one is... We got some dirts. Maybe that's a good dirt. I kind of like that as a metal. Maybe for the metal nails. So I'm going to invert my selection and delete. I don't want any of these others. I don't know, maybe which one of these looks like wood? Maybe that. Keep that one around. That could be a wood. And then delete the rest. So these are just ideas, you know, values, collecting. These are ideas for albedo colors, and these would be possible material ideas. Material. Okay, I'm going to save this as my crate texturing world, if you will. Say crate. crate texturing. I'm going to bring up another instance of Max. We got to export our low poly, bring it into both, and I'm doing this just for you to see, but I'm going to bring it into both Unreal and Max. We're going to set up a texturing kind of view so that we can check our textures while we're texturing. It's always good to check your textures inside of your engine, wherever you're going. So if you know that this is going to be for the game that you're working on, you would take it into your game and check it there. And so for us, we're just going to preview it in Max, and then we're going to take it also into Unreal to make sure it looks good in our world. Okay, got our low poly. We want to, we're probably gonna, yeah, let's break this apart. So I'm gonna convert to editable poly. I'm gonna detach this. You can just go over to detach in your editable poly. I just selected an element, detached it. So now that we have our lid as a separate piece. Okay, and just for the sake of being clean, center our pivot, and I'm going to align that pivot. Yep, effect pivot only and align it to center. And I'm going to select both of these. We're going to go put basic material on it. I don't want to bring all this into, well, maybe. We'll see what happens. Let's keep it on here. So select both, file, export selected. So we go export, export selected. Let's jump to our crate folder. Exports. I'm going to call this demo. Low poly crate. Low poly demo. I'm going to go ahead and say triangulate. Shouldn't need tangents and binormals. We do need smoothing groups and preserve edge orientation. I'm going to set it to the latest FBX. Scale factor should be automatic. The units, if you go to advanced options, units should be set to automatic, and say OK. I'm going to go over here, go to File, Import. Jump to our folder. Exports. There we go. It brought our material, which is nice. Let's see where my grid is. Yep, there's my grid. Let's keep it on the center. And I need to set up new material, so I'm going to eyedrop this from my material editor off of here. We're going to build a material, PBR material, so we don't need the normal bump and we don't need the physical material. What we need is a metal rough shader, PBR material, metal rough. And let's drag our color in here. Let's put our normal map in here. And we are more or less set up. We're gonna have to make a couple other maps and we'll come back in here. But to see that same sort of similar setup inside of Unreal, let's go do the same thing in Unreal. So I would say I have a special folder in here called Assets. It'd be, let's see, Static. We're gonna say under my static folder, this is just where I collect assets. I'm gonna call this Crate 2019, preferably not all caps. I'm actually gonna rename that to match all the others. Let's keep that naming convention with the underscore. So Crate 2019, this is my Crate 2019 folder. We could right click, I think, and we could import. I'm just going to drag in through a Windows window. Windows Explorer. Browse to our folder. Let's see, exports. We want that FBX, so let's bring that FBX in here. Probably going to bring in our material. Ooh, there's our import. Looks good. I'm just going to say import. And it did bring in a couple of our textures as well as our material. And this is already partially set up for us, which was nice. So I'm just going to roll with that. If you don't have that, what you can do is right click new material, and you would create the new material and you'd name it Crate like that. Name it Crate material. I'm going to name the one that came in. So I'll rename this Crate material. And then you would just drag these textures in from your content browser directly into the Unreal material editor, and then you just plug them in. But our Max material actually maintained those plugs, which was interesting. I haven't done much experimenting with that. So this is where we're at. We're going to come back to this. Kind of like setup in Max. Oh, we should apply it to our object, huh? Get our object out here in the scene. Ooh, it's bright in here. There we go, something like that. Just gonna push these back. Spacebar for transform tool. I'm gonna rotate it. And I might just check my lights in here. So G on my keyboard to either hide or unhide all these. And I want to set my light, which is this sun looking thing here, to maybe something like 1. Yeah. Yeah. And then our sky dome here, maybe we set it to, it's just a little bit filled, washed out in here. So I'm going to take down the intensity of my skylight, 0.5. Now we got a more generically lit texture world, which is what we want. We don't want to texture to something that's kind of overdone as far as the lighting. Alright, good. So I'm going to just line up my camera, and I'm going to save this. Should do the same for our crate over here. Check our lights. Light lister, that'd be tools. Go to our light lister. The list of our lights. We can turn most of these off. Yeah, some more generically lit. Turn our sky dome like we did in Unreal. Turn that down a little bit. Maybe 0.3. Get something similar as we are in Unreal. Also going to hide this floor just so it's runs a little bit faster, calculates less. And then save that file. We're done in this Max. Done with that folder. And we're back in Photoshop. So we'll go ahead and say open. Make sure I'm actually still recording. Yep, good. And let's just go ahead and open all of our maps. If you don't have all these, you can check the last video I put on advanced render to texture inside of Max to figure out how to get some of these. Say open. And I'm just going to start pulling these together. And so just follow along, kind of do as I do. I'm gonna start in my normal map folder, or I'm sorry, my normal map file, and then I'm gonna Alt double click on that background layer, and I'm just gonna rename it. I'm gonna call this base underscore normal, and then I'm gonna highlight that layer, hit Control G to group it, and we're gonna call this the normal, all caps, normal group. And I'm going to right click on the eyeball, change it to violet, makes it a little easier to see our different maps in here. And then I'm going to pull the normal file tab out of Photoshop and dock it to the left of the canvas, just like that. So now I got two canvases we can kind of see in here. And I'm going to go through these maps one by one, and I'm going to say Control A to select all the pixels in them. Make sure you're in this canvas. I activated the viewport. You can do that by holding spacebar and just kind of panning in it to activate it. And then Control A, and I'm going to do Control C copy. It's a basic copy. And I'm going to Control V paste into my new normal folder or file. Ugh. And I'm going to name that new one that we just dropped in here. Call that dust. And then we can close that old dust file, and let's go ahead and make sure that we save. Well, let's just finish copying these over. So Control A, Control C, go over to my normal file, paste. This is the gradient, so I'm just gonna say G for gradient, close that one. We got our AO here, Control A, Control C, Control V, Control W to close. Grab our base here, Control C, Control V, go back, Control W, grab our world normal, just kind of rinse and repeat here, copy paste, blah 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 blah. ID map, paste. UVW, W, paste. Control A, Control C, paste. And close that last one. And now we have all of these in one in one single document. And I'm going to name them all real quick. Call this AO. call this one base. Albedo. Could really even call it a base color because it's not necessarily an albedo yet. I'm going to drag this one down underneath. Okay, this is the world normal map. So I would just say, let's call it world. And I'm going to put it underneath our base normal. Call this ID map. This was our UVs, so UVW. And this is our UVW fill layer. Okay. We're going to take our base color here and Control G group it. We're going to name this group Albedo. I'm going to group, you can hold Control to select multiple layers. I'm going to group both the UVWs into a folder, put it at the top, call it Tech. I'm going to make it a gray. I'm going to make the Albedo folder a yellow folder. It's just right clicking on it. And we got to order these in a way. So I'm going to put the ID down at the bottom, and I'm going to create a group down here called Select. Make it gray. And I'm going to put that dust inside of the Select. Put the gradient inside of the Select. And I'm going to put the AO inside of the Albedo folder. So I can turn off Tech. So we can see our Albedo is our top folder here now. That's what we're viewing. And I'm going to set the AO to a multiply blend node. Multiply. So now we have our AO shadows multiplied down. And I'm going to group that AO inside of a folder called Overlays. I'm going to turn those overlays on and off. And I'm going to just collapse that down, hide our AO for the moment. And really we should probably turn the AO down to something real soft. I'm going to set it to like 30% on the opacity. And let's go ahead and save our document just to be safe. Save as textures demo. I'm going to call this, I'm just going to call it crate. 2019. And this is the master texture file. Okay, so I'm going to open up my normal and my Albedo. We're going to create a map here. And so anytime I'm kind of working, you could do this one of two ways. I like to duplicate what I'm working on and put it at the top so I can see it. Or with that layer selected, I'm just going to hit Control A, select all, Control C, copy, and then I'm going to hit Control N, new, and it should have your new 2048 values in here. You say create, and then I'm going to paste. And this could become my working document. So I could dock a working document and jump back and forth. I'll probably put the working document on the left. And I could use it kind of just as a scratch work document for creating things and generating patterns and such. Back in here, yeah, let's do it that way. So I made a copy, brought it over to a new document, and we're going to run an effect on this normal map. And that goes a little something like this. inside your layers, duplicate that normal map, so you want 2 of them. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I actually want to go into channels, which I don't have. I'm going to go Window, Channels, turn our channels on, and I'm going to dock my channels up here. Channels are a view into your colors, and so you can actually take these out of the channels. So you have a red channel, green channel, and for our normal map you can see we have a bunch of different directions. So the red channels are left and right information, green channels are up and down information, and then the blue channels are in and out information. We want to copy the green channel, so I Control A, Control C. On our layer panel here, you got to click to get out of channels. Paste, and so now I pasted my green channel as a new layer. We're going to go turn that off and go back down to our normal map and go to the red channel. Make sure you're on your normal map. Red channel, Control A, Control C. Click on your layer palette again to get out of the channels, or you can just click on that top RGB channel to get back out of it, and then paste. And now we have our red layer. And so I'm going to name this R for red, G for green. We have a red channel and a green channel here now. And we're going to run an effect on these 2 channels. So let me let's get in a little closer here. So I'm going to hide the red channel for the moment. On the green channel, we're going to go Filter. I believe it's okay, we got to go Filter, Stylize, and Emboss. We're going to run an emboss on this green channel from our normal map. Now we have to align the angle to the direction of the channel. So like I said earlier, the green channel was our up and down information. I'm going to go in here and set our angle to -90 on our green channel. And I might emboss it at a height of either 1, possibly 2. I'm feeling like 2 is where I want to go with it, so I'm going to set 2. That angle's -90 with a height of 2. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to hide that. I'm going to go to the red channel now, highlight that layer, filter. You could run the same emboss here. You should not do that. Go back down, stylize, emboss, because we need to change the angle. This is what would happen if you ran it again. This is not what we want. We got to match our angle to the information. So we know this is our left to right information. And I just want to take a look at the angle. Looks like we want it on an angle of 0, height of 2, and hit OK. And so now we have 2 sets of emboss information. And I'm just going to take whichever one's on top. In this case, it's the red channel. And I'm going to set that red one to overlay. And it combines that layer into a cavity map for us, or a curvature map, as you might hear it called elsewhere too, which holds our cavities. It holds our cavity information and our edge information, or crevices and edges. It's called a bunch of different things. Also called a height map. But in the case that we're using it in, this is our curvature map. So that's the green channel information, red channel information. When they're combined through like an overlay, we now have our curvature. So I'm going to hit Control A, select this whole working document, copy it. I'm going to go back over to our main folder here, pan to activate, and I'm going to go to the overlays folder, paste, and it looks like we only got one of our channels here, and that's because I did a basic copy. I didn't do a copy merge, And now what that means, if I go back to my working document, I only did Control C. I thought I was copying the whole thing, but really I was just copying that single green layer. So if you want to copy what is visible, you have to say Control A. Control Shift C is copy merged, as they call it. And so that is kind of like copying whatever is visible into a merged set of information. And now we're going to go back over and paste, and we got our full cavity map here. We're also going to set this to a blending mode of overlay. And that kind of highlighted all of our edges and crevices for us. Also going to turn this down to about 30% opacity. Okay, now we should probably, let's name that cavity. Cavity or curvature. There we go. Now we should probably bust out these colors of our base map here. The way you isolate a layer inside of Photoshop is to alt-click it. And so it turns off everything else and allows you to view that. It's like a quick isolate. If you hold Alt and click it again, it'll unhide what you previously had. So I'm just going to isolate this. And we're going to go Magic Wand tool, which is over here on the left. Magic Wand, also W on your keyboard. And we're going to zoom in kind of around these little nail heads, just to kind of see what our selection looks like. And I just selected that wood color. And you can see it kind of, we have some garbage over here as well. That's just padding information. But basically we want to separate out all of our different elements. And rather than selecting the wood, it seems like the best way to handle this is to select out the nail heads by themselves. So let's start there. And you see I don't want to select one by one. So if I click a nail head, it just selects the one. So let's go up to our toolbar here, or our status bar, I think is what they call it. And let's turn off contiguous. So I did a Control D to deselect, and now that contiguous is unchecked, when we click this nail head, it'll select everything with that same color. I think the tolerance is too high. It's looking like we're getting some of these softer colors, which I don't want. So I might change the tolerance down to 20% forgiveness. And then click that again, and that gets us a little closer. So let's run with that. Now with that selection, we're going to create a new solid object. It's a new layer. So down here at the bottom of the layer panel, I'm going to click this little half hemisphere. Say solid color. And because we had a selection when we did this, it automatically put that mask on there for us. And I'm just going to say OK. Let's turn off that new layer and go sample the color that's underneath for our nail heads. So I just went to brush by hitting B on my keyboard. And then I'm holding Alt to pull out the eyedropper tool. And I'm going to eyedrop that color. We're probably going to change this, but I at least want to start with what came out of Max. And so we can turn our new solid fill layer back on, which by the way we're going to call nails, or we'd say, yeah, let's call it metal. Metal nails, or nails metal is probably the better one, nails. And then maybe what kind of metal? I don't know, steel? I could say steel. It's good for us to kind of think about that. And now we have that eyedropper in our foreground color over here. So I'm going to highlight that solid fill layer and do Alt backspace to fill it. So now if we turn off our base color, you see I have the nails on their own layer. And they do grow a little bit. That's because of our soft. It looks like the tolerance of 20 was too high. I'm just going to run with it though. And we're also going to go back to brush, highlight our base color layer, and I'm going to sample this yellow wood color. And I'm going to do another solid fill. And I'm going to name this solid fill wood. Let's say crate wood. Who knows, maybe it's made out of like balsa wood or something. Okay, base color doesn't need to be on, but it doesn't really matter. It's in our albedo folder. It's underneath our main ones here, but I'm going to group this layer, these layers, these color layers. Control G and just say colors. So now we have overlays and we have colors. Okay. We should probably start laying some grunge on here. But for funsies, let's save this and check it in our, oh yeah, save the PSD. It's telling me it can't save. There it goes. And we're just going to Control Shift save a, let's see, a PNG file. And actually in our old, all these old maps that are in here, I'm just going to create a new folder within our textures and say junk. And I'm going to drag everything in there but the normal map. Nah, we're probably going to drag that in there too. It's named improperly anyways. There we go. And so here we're going to say create 2019 underscore A for albedo. Paste that there. Turn that off. We're going to get our normal map. Control Shift S. Save as. We're going to save it as a PNG. Create 2019 underscore N for normal. Save that one as well. Now we broke our files. Texture's probably broken. Yep, there they go. So I'm going to go back into this bitmap here. And we're going to load the new one, which is named properly. Let's do the same thing for that normal map. Now we have some edge highlights. Starting to look a little nicer. And I'm thinking just for the sake of max, I want to go and grab this light and move it up. And maybe closer. And now we can kind of view it, which looks good. Let's go do the same thing in Unreal. or wherever you're at. I'm doing them both. Okay, so now we need to go to, we need to bring up that Windows folder. I use Windows E to launch the Explorer window. Let's go to our crate, textures, demo. I'm just going to drag both of these over. And here, I'm going to delete the old ones because they're not in the same location anymore. Just say force delete. Load up that material. You see we got some errors in here now. Just gonna delete both of those. Whoa. Drag both of these textures in. RGB node into normal. Oops, missed. Into normal. Into base color for the albedo. And I'm already using an sRGB curve. You know, if you don't necessarily know what that means, don't worry about it. But I'm going to go into here, and it's just looking like. Turn off sRGB. See what that looks like. Save. Okay, it just looks like a double curve's getting baked in. Ignore what I did here. Keep that on. It's crying about it. And then we're going to say save all. Okay. It's just still a little bright in here. I guess that's what the issue is. A really bright world. Okay, jump back to Photoshop. Let's talk about adding some grunge on here. Oh, too soon. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's actually define our materials. That's probably more important. So I'm just going to duplicate some folders here. I'm going to hold Alt, and I'm going to drag the albedo folder a couple of times. And we're going to name this one. Call it metalness. And then the one above it, we'll call it roughness. Let's right click and change the colors of those. I'm going to say blue for the metalness, green for the roughness. Go in here, and we're going to adjust and clean up these folders now. So for base color, I'm just going to delete that. Remember, I'm under metalness, and we're going to set our metalness values here. So I know that the metalness map is black and white, defining what is metal and what is not. And so the wood itself, not metal. So we're going to say no, not metal, make it black. I'll turn off the roughness folder at the top. And then we're going to go into the nails color here and say yes, that is metal. Make those white. And then for the metalness, we do not want our AO or our curvature, so we can get rid of that overlays folder. So the only thing under metalness you should have are your new colors. I'm going to turn on roughness now, and we're going to do something similar. I'm going to get rid of this base color, and we're just going to guess at how rough we want our wood. This needs to be desaturated. And I'm gonna say that we want it about halfway rough. So I'm gonna go halfway up the color slider. Halfway rough. And I'm probably just gonna do the same thing for the metal. Maybe we want them a little slicker so that they pop more, or maybe we want them softer because they're old, gross nails, or unpolished nails. But then our wood would be... This is an aesthetic thing here. I think I want shinier nails, so we're going to go less rough. And then say OK. And then there's our roughness map. Except for maybe, let's go to overlays. We need to get rid of our AO. And I don't always get rid of my curvature. I might set the curvature down to like 10% while it crashes on me. There it goes. Curvature, there we go. Something real faint. Basically, this is a stylization on realism. So these values in here, they're getting brighter. So literally on our edges for our crate, it's getting more rough. And then where it's darker, it's getting less rough. Okay. So I mean that's not completely realistic, but we're going for kind of our own crate. This is you. We're still aiming to hit a realistic result, but it's not going to be hyper realism. It's going to be a stylized realism, so to speak. So let's save these maps out. Except I want to teach you something. Let's go to Window, Actions, and yours will probably look like this. You'll have folders, not like mine. You won't have my folders. In fact, you'll probably have the default actions in here. I don't use default actions. I just trash those. And you can create your own folder in here. I'm going to call this crate. So I created a new folder inside of the actions. I'll call this crate 2019 actions. And then inside of that, we're gonna hit this little new button right next to the folder button. So I'm gonna say new, and we're creating a new action. We're going to name this crate _ R for roughness. And then we say record. Now don't touch anything because it's recording. So anything that you do is going to get stored inside of this action. So what we're recording is going File, Save As, to the folder. We're going to change it to PNG. Say crate 2019 _ R for roughness. Save. Yep. And you see over here on action, it created a save for us. So if we do that little drop down, you can see the settings for it. Awesome. So I'm going to hit stop on that bottom bar. And now we have a quick action to save our roughness file. And I'm just going to work my way through this and do it for the others too. So highlight that crate 29's action folder. I'm going to say new. We're going to call this crate _ M for metalness. File, save as, PNG _ M. Yep, save. Hit stop. 2019 actions, create new. Crate _ A for albedo. Enter, start recording, file, save as. Let's not save a PSD. Save a PNG. Save. Yes. Yes. Stop. New action. Create _n for normal. File. Save as. I'm just going to save over that. Save. Yes. Replace. Okay. Now you'll notice I didn't change any of those folders. So if you were to go and look at these images, they're all going to look like the metalness map for the most part. Metalness, yeah, they all look like the metalness map except for the roughness, which is no biggie. I'm going to leave that window open, but I'm going to go back here and make sure that we resave all of these and use these actions. Oh, don't forget to turn off that last, yeah, action. So under roughness, just give me a hard time again. Let that load. Okay, roughness. I'm gonna go to our create R action and hit play. And it should save for us. I keep touching this group. Empty layer so it doesn't complain at me. Okay, roughness, done. Turn off the roughness layer, go to metalness, highlight the metalness, hit play, turn off the next one, albedo, click on that action, play, normal, click on the normal action, play. Then we're going to go over to max. Bring up our file window. Boom. And I'm going to drag the new maps in here. So we have, we want our metalness. We want the roughness. We want to plug those into the correct slots. So roughness slot, metalness slot. There we go. Make sure those materials are applied. And so now we have our materials semi-defined. And this is where, I mean, I did a pretty good guess for our roughness. Like our wood is not overly shiny, but at the same time it's not so dull that it doesn't exist. And so this is kind of, to me, what I would imagine like a normal wood that hasn't really been touched, hasn't been touched by the world. It's going to be kind of pristine and possibly a little bit glossy like this. Maybe a little much, but I don't know, maybe the wood's polished, maybe it's been sanded down and polished real well. I think it's a good start. Could do the same for our Unreal file. Make sure this is set up too. So let's drag in the two new maps and then into our material editor. plug these in. So into the metalness slot. I'm using right click to pan in here. Roughness. And then save that material. And then while I'm here, File, Save All. And there we go. Our material is starting to kind of define itself. And our metals are indeed shiny, like we want. Now maybe those metals, I don't know, to me they kind of look dark. I want them a little more gray, I think. So let's go back to Photoshop. And I'm going to hit F to kind of full, so I can do this, which is going to get rid of our working document. But I can hit Control Tab to get back and forth between my working document and my master texture document. Okay, Albedo. I'm thinking that our wood color is a little bit yellow. I'm not the biggest fan of. I want something more like what is in our reference. And so if I go to our reference, okay, now we have lots of colors in here. We'll get to making the wood grain, but for the moment, let's sample some of these colors. So I think I'm just going to highlight this straight out of PureRef, and I'm going to Control Tab to our working document, paste. Let's put it at the above so that we can eyedrop some values here. I'm thinking I kind of like this. It's kind of that color right there. So I just went into my brush, held Alt, and I sampled that. And I'm going to Control Tab back. I'm going to keep my original wood layer here. I don't know, maybe we want to do some blending between the two. And then I'm going to just duplicate it, Alt drag it, or Control J to duplicate. And I'm going to fill that, Alt backspace, with my new wood color, which is rather bright. I'm going to bring it down so it's not so blinding. And maybe just a little bit more saturation. And then I'm going to go to this crate action, the crate albedo action, and hit play. So it saves it. We can jump back over to max, and it auto updated for us. We got a little bit more of a generic looking wood color here, which I think is still a little bit too, well, a little bit more saturation than that. Run that action again, hit play, Alt Tab back to max, and it updated. And this is looking a little better. I'm now thinking that that roughness is a little too shiny. The box is a little too shiny, so let's go back, collapse the albedo folder, let's look into the roughness, and let's make that base crate roughness more rough. So we're going to go up in value. Make it a little bit more rough and say OK. And then let's go run that roughness save. Save that. Thinking that was just a little bit too much. So I'm going to pull back off of what I did, maybe just by a smidge. Say OK. Run that action. Back over. I think that's about where I want it. Maybe these nail heads too dark, too shiny. And so let's address that while we're here. Let's go to that nails, making them a little bit more rough. Run that roughness save. Alt tab back over to max. sure these are updating. Still a little too glossy. Thinking more roughness. I just do this at a little bit at a time because it doesn't take much value to really kind of change the roughness. So resave. They're getting a little bit softer. Probably do it again. Those are feeling pretty good. Something like that. Okay. Now I think that was really simple, kind of what we just did there. And what you can kind of look at that process as is defining your materials. So we were kind of defining out these raw materials like this. And we just wanted to make sure that our base materials were somewhat reasonable before we get off to grunging and texturing. Like we have something believable as far as our materials, like does the wood kind of look like wood? Does the nail kind of look like, you know, an actual nail, the metal for the nail, before we get grunging and adding on top of it. So you can call that a material definition, is kind of how I look at that stage, which is separating out all of your colors, aligning up your metalness map, and getting good roughness values set in there. We now have our materials defined. They're doing what we believe they should be doing, and now we can kind of get lost in the fun stuff, just grunging up. We're going to need to define our grunge materials. So maybe we can go pull in this one here, which let's eye drop, get some values. And so what do we have here? We have 1.17. Ugh. Okay, so what I'm going to do while that's up, I'm going to say snipping tool. I'm just going to grab that, copy it, go back to Photoshop, Control Tab to our working document, and I'm going to paste, and I'm going to sample that color. And then in our colors, not in our colors folder, but outside of that, we're going to create a new folder, call it Grunge. Ooh. And I'm going to create a new solid color, and it'll autofill that dirt color for us. And that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to call this layer dirt. And I'm just going to hide it for now. We'll come back to that. We should tackle probably the most difficult part of this, which is the wood grain. So let's go ahead and jump maybe to Google here, type in wood grain. Yeah. I like that. Kind of low res. I was looking for something a little bit higher res, and in fact, let's go back to Google here. Scroll up. We're going to say tools, size, large. add. I'm going to copy that. We're going to go to our working document, paste. And we're going to turn this into a tileable wood texture. And so, how am I going to do this? Maybe, actually, let's, since we copied it, we can go Control N in our 1500 by 1500 right there. We'll create a new document, paste it in here so it fits to the edges. And I'm going to go to Filter, Other, Offset, and I'm just going to look at the seam because this isn't tileable. Half of 1500 is 750, so I'm going to do 750 by 750, and there's our seam. I'm just going to say OK. And then I'm going to paste again. There's our wood, that same wood picture. And I'm going to put a mask on it. A mask. I'm going to highlight that mask, Control I to invert. And then I'm going to go grab some kind of grungy, streaky brush to kind of blend it, blend this with a mask. Let me see, maybe something like that. Possibly. And what I'm doing is I'm just masking in. Probably not with the best brush. This might be better. I have kind of this scratchy brush. That's probably what we want to do to mask in some of that. I'm just going to brush away some of this. Seam. Just make it less obvious. There we go. So that's what our mask is looking like. And then I'm going to Control A, Control C, Control Shift C, copy merge. So I'm going to take both of these into one image now. And I'm just going to paste it at the top. So now these two underneath are gone, and this is one image again. And then I'm going to go Filter, Other, Offset. I'm just going to check that offset, preview it, which it looks okay. I'm thinking it's not tiled enough. So what I'm going to do is take, and probably a little too saturated if I'm being honest, Control U, or go Layer or Image Adjustments, Hue Saturation, and I'm just going to pull this down. Maybe even completely. Maybe we could add our own color. That might be the way to go. Let's do that. Saturation all the way down. I don't want to deal with color, let's just deal with the wood grain itself. Okay. And then we're going to go Edit, Define Pattern, and name this Wood Grain Start. And we have a new pattern down here. And I think we're done with this this working document. So I'm going to close this whole working document. I'm not going to save it. I'm going to go into our other working document, which is a 2048. And I'm going to do a new pattern. So new pattern. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you should have your wood grain in here. And I'm basically just going to, let's double it first. Let's set it to, not the angle. Ooh, 50%, which is okay. What's 25% look like? Gross. Let's go back to 50. So we're going to set this to 50, and we just kind of doubled up our pattern here. There's 4 of them now, technically. Yeah. And maybe we want some kind of levels this. Balance out those levels. I think I want to go find some wood knots. Let's go back to Google. I'm looking for something kind of like, yeah, maybe kind of like that. Ooh, even more like, possibly even like that. It's a little small. Doesn't need to be super. You don't need to be super picky about this, because this is stuff that can be edited. Maybe call this, maybe search for wood knots. Ooh, similar images. I like. Wood grain. Medium size, maybe. Yeah, maybe something like that. Copy. Paste. I'm going to desaturate. Control L to levels this. Really just want to isolate the darks, but you also got to kind of make sure that it's of similar value. Hit OK. Maybe we set this to multiply or overlay. Multiply. We should level it again, add more whites. Really, I'm just trying to get the wood lines. Might even do something like that. Just get real crunchy with it. We can kind of clean it up. I don't mind that so much. Basically, I'm just going to go in and kind of copy this a couple of times. Hold Alt, drag to make another one. We might Control T and turn it. Yeah, like that. And put some of those lines right there. I'm going to duplicate it again. I think maybe I just want some of these other lines right there. I can get rid of some of the spillover. Just with a select box, I'm selecting on that layer, cleaning up some of the overlap. Put that in the middle. Or maybe I just leave it at the bottom. Let's duplicate all of these. I highlighted all those layers and I did an Alt drag. And with those selected, Control E will smash them into one image. I'm going to turn it back on multiply. And now that it's one image, I can put a mask on it. And with that same brush we were using earlier, just kind of mask away some of that overlap. I think I'm going to do it with the ones underneath. Select all those, Control E to merge, M to multiply. I'm going to put a mask on it, new mask button, and let's just mask away some of those darks right there. Oops. Oops. New mask. We just want to get rid of visible seams so that when we tile this, we'll see lines in the wrong places. Okay, I'm going to select those two layers, and I'm going to merge them together. And then we can set to multiply. And now I'm going to go filter, offset, other offset. And this is a 2048 document, so we need to offset it by 1024. 1024. And we got some seams we need to get rid of. So I'm going to duplicate. So now I have two of these. Filter, offset. And then I'm going to mask one of these. Kind of in. Let's do this with a different brush. Maybe mask away some of the ones from the bottom. There we go. Get some breakup in there. Just blend it as best you can. I'm using 2 of these now. Get rid of that seam as best we can. Bouncing back and forth between these, masking them away. And maybe I copy some of these and place a few particular wood shapes, like I like that one right there. And just kind of mask away some of the rest of this. So you can keep layering up. I'm gonna take it about that far. Let me see what. Yep. And then I might put a gray layer underneath all of these. Oops. There we go. That would have helped me see them a little better. Get rid of a few of those more obvious seams. Different layer. Oh no. Can't go without music. Okay. There are a couple of these lines still to get rid of, just so it doesn't repeat itself in our texture. I would spend a little bit more time than I have on this pattern. It's something that you can keep once you've made it kind of how you want it. Reuse it. There we go. Could be something you take into Substance Painter too. Okay, let's turn that in between gray layer. See, I have the grain on one or above, and then I have the older, the first one we did below, and I just think it's a little bright, a little bit chaotic, leveled it too much. I want to suppress it a little bit and then add more back on top. And so that's just kind of my divider between the two. That might be all I want. Something like that. So I'm just going to make a new texture, copy merge. That's a Control A, Control Shift C, and then paste. So now I have all this in a single layer. And let's say edit, preferences, I'm sorry, edit, define pattern. And then say OK. And then we can run a new pattern here. New pattern, let's check see how it looks. OK. Oh, not OK. Let's change it to 50. And we got some seams in there. That's okay. You could fix those. I'm going to show you what we're going to do with this. Let's jump back over to our crate and we're going to run a new pattern. Maybe it needs to be either 50 or 75, probably 50 to fit the scale of our asset. I'm just going to set that to overlay. And now we are running into a problem where we want the wood grain to go with our planks. And so that's where this is going to take a little bit of work to basically go in here and make sure those are all following the same direction. And we can do that a couple of these ways. Get rid of that extra layer. We're going to just work at the top here. So this one's going to be, it's going to be our up. This one's going to be, I'm just going to call it side. We're going to double click on that one and we're going to turn it. Turn that angle. And then we're going to create one more. We're going to set it to 45 to go at an angle. And we're going to deal with these one at a time. So I'm going to invert my mask from on that first up version of it. Invert. And basically I'm going to go find all my planks that are set going vertical. It would help if we used our tech. Let's put the tech at the top. Let's turn on our UVW and set this to add so that we can see our lines in here. And then maybe even our UV fill we could set to multiply and then turn that down a little bit. And so now we can kind of see inside of Photoshop where all of our planks are officially. So we're searching for up planks, and so I'm going to say these are up planks, these are up planks. They're technically the diagonals, but they are facing up, so we might not need that diagonal one after all. Okay, this is where it gets a little more particular. I'll just select this one right here in between. Select that one. Select that one. Select that one. That's not an up one. These are ups. This one's an up. This one's an up. We gotta go through and select all of these so we can kind of make sure our wood grains go in the proper directions. And I'm holding shift to select more of these. And we're just going to fill our masks. If you want to do it one at a time, you can do that, but I'm going to live on the edge and try to get all my selection in one go here. Right there. You could paint these in too. Would be another way to do it. Should have been grabbing these corners too. Right there. Here, I'll grab these side ones. Don't forget these. Did I get them all? One here. Okay. And we're just going to go to that mask and fill it with white. Okay. I'm going to turn on this other one. And I'm going to control click my up mask. I'm going to go to my side one and I'm going to say control shift I to invert my selection. And we're going to fill that with black. Control D to deselect and then I to invert that mask. So now all of our wood grains running in the proper direction. You see we have a seam here that we didn't completely clean up. We could. Now would be a good time to go and kind of detail some of that up or fix up some of that. Looks like I didn't need that 45-degree one after all. I can delete that. And I'm going to bring these up and out. I'm going to group it and call it wood grain. And I'm just going to put this at the bottom under my select. And I'm going to duplicate at the top, have a copy of it here. We're going to take them off overlay. And then we're going to convert this to a normal map. And how we're going to do that is, let's make sure that, really we need to make sure that this is set to white. The gray should be white and all of our grain should be black. So I'm just going to select this wood grain copy folder. I'm going to hit Control E. Merge down, so it's going to merge it into one picture, one layer, and then maybe we say Control L, and I'm going to push the levels around a little bit to get something a little more friendly to converting to a normal map, which would be, I don't know, just more contrast, I guess. There we go, something like that. I may even do a duplicate, so Control J on the wood grain. And I'm going to go filter, other, high pass on that duplicate. And I'm going to turn this down, down, probably to 1. And I might just turn the opacity down. Something like that. So now I'm kind of blending between the two. And I'm starting to feel good about this wood grain. I think it's getting to where it's kind of getting to the effect that I was looking for. Okay, so let's merge that. We could keep another group of this. Put that under select. And then merge this group. And then for this group, we're going to go 3D. Oh, not 3D, sorry, my bad. Filter 3D. And then we're going to say generate normal map. Beep. To me, this preview is not helpful. I want to get... And I can't. I'm going to cancel. I'm going to get closer to my wood grain. We're going to zoom in here on some of these shapes. And then we're going to go back, say filter, 3D, generate normal map. And there we go. We're not gonna go crazy on this. You got to be careful not to overdo your normal maps, especially when they're just meant for detail. Stuff like this, not gonna look good. When it's small detail, high frequency stuff, it's better to keep it pretty faint. So that's 2%. I could even turn up the blur to get kind of some deeper. Oops. And I think we need to invert the height. Yeah, we do. Make sure you hit check. Make sure you hit the check on the invert height so that the wood grain is going the proper direction in the normal map. That's what I was wanting to know. So I'm going to do two of these actually. I'm going to do one with no blur, set to a detail scale of 2. And say OK. Good thing we made that copy here, that other group. I'm going to bring it back with a duplicate. Call this grain final. Keep it down here in case we need to get back to it. And this top one that I duplicate, I'm going to merge. So Control E again. We're going to say filter, generate normal map. Actually, cancel out of that. I'm going to duplicate it again. Filter. Generate. You hit 1 on the blur, I think. I think I'm going to go with blur of 1.5 and then detail scale. We might take it up to like 3 and then say OK. And now we have 2 different extra normal maps. If we zoom in here, you see we have one that's kind of deeper and softer, and then we have one that's a little more grainy and kind of crispy. And so we're going to let's name these. We're going to say wood grain underscore soft underscore normal. Name the other one, we're going to call it sharp. We call it fine underscore normal. And I'm going to take both of these and I'm going to drag them down to my normal folder. And I'm actually kind of liking this wood grain that came out after that high pass filter that we did. So I might put that in the, let's go base, or let's just call it wood grain. We're going to put it under grunge for now. And I might put it on overlay. Maybe not overlay, let's do soft light. There we go, starting to get a little more texture to this thing. Yeah. And let's double check that normal map. Now there's a special way to put new normal maps on top of your old one. And how we're going to do that is we're going to double click on that layer. And that should bring you into this layer style box. And there's the channels in here where it says advanced blending channels. You have RGB. We're going to turn off B. And I want you to set the blending mode for this layer to overlay. And say OK. And do that for the other one too. So double click, turn off the blue channel, go to blending mode, overlay. And now this we need to dial in. We kind of need to dial into whatever we need it to. So I mean, this is probably too high frequency. Normal maps tend to be kind of overpowering, so I'm going to set this down to like 20%. And we're just going to look at the rough grain for the moment. So let's go ahead and save out our create normal file. Go over to, yep. There we go, we're starting to get some effect. Which might be a little soft. Which might be okay. But I'm going to bump it. Let's say 30. And I'm going to turn this other one on, which is a lot louder. So we're going to set this one maybe down to 10. And then we're going to hit save on our crate. Crate normal. And then jump back over. There we go. It's starting to get kind of how we want it to look. I might change the larger, softer one down to 5%, and then take the fine grain up to 40, maybe 40%. Run that save. And that's feeling a little better. It's I mean, maybe it didn't need to read that far away. But that's a pretty good wood grain, if I do say myself, for ripping it straight out of the internet. Okay, let's go back up to the albedo, save our albedo, jump back over. Nice. I'm thinking no. Whoa, that's saturated. I think I do want to saturate my wood color a little bit more. and then resave that albedo. I think it's albedo. I've been saying albedo for years, like the Texan I am. Alright. So the crate's looking pretty clean, but it's looking, you know, it's looking about like we want it. As far as the materials go. The materials are looking like how we want. Maybe we could add something special in for the nails. I still feel like they're just rendering a little dark. So maybe it's the nail metal, which that's an incorrect color, honestly. PBR friendly is really up here. Something more like that. Hit OK. That's why it was reading so dark. Run that albedo. Albedo. That's looking a little more like metal now. And it's definitely really bright. It's really shiny. So let's real quick readjust our material definition on that roughness. Let's make it a lot more rough. Take it up to something like maybe right there. Save the roughness. Getting there. Still a little kind of like silver almost. It's an expensive nail head. More rough. Run that. It's feeling better. Nice. Feeling like that albedo is a little bit bright for what we're going for. We want a little bit of a cheaper nail. Can't take it too far down, otherwise it's going to be out of the realistic values. Maybe something closer to there. File, not file. Blah, 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 blah. Albedo. Play. Yeah, there we go. I'm liking that. Be done with those. Okay, that's looking about. I'm actually gonna wrap this up tonight, but I think that got to a good point. We'll do textures, we'll do grunges here in a little bit, but I think we got to a good point in this video, good enough to call it. We got we have things set up in our engines to actually view it in 3D. We have our, which we should save, file, save the master PSD. You guys learned about actions and quick saving files to preview. We have our grain texture. We have made that grain into secondary normal information. So there's quite a bit done in this video. If you get here, really the last part now is to grunge it up. And so I would encourage you to experiment with some of those methods that I showed in my Photoshop crash course. But I will get on this tonight and wrap up the grunge for this crate. Thanks for watching, guys.